Join us for a review of the Mercedes CLA Coupé in this new generation. Let's go! In the front you can already see this very central design of this Mercedes CLA, and that's also the main selling point, the design. However, the predecessor generation to me looked a little bit more fluent and central in design. This one here a little bit more mainstream, but I think still good looking. Headlamps start from halogen. Yeah, I think they should work on their extra equipment list, so to include more for the customer. Optional LED and optional, the LED multi-beam, and also for more high beam functionality. Oh, that was a Porsche, I think. So then here, those black elements, those are closed. This is, nothing special then. However, I really like this dot style grille in the AMG line we have here today. So this is my favorite Mercedes front grille. And this white color will especially play a role when we take a look at the interior color very soon. The length is at 4,69 meters, 15'4" or 184 inches. That's 5 centimeters longer than the predecessor and 15 centimeters longer than the Mercedes A-Class sedan, because nowadays they have the A-Class sedan, which is on the same platform than this one, the Mercedes CLA, and then there's the Mercedes C-Class. And that is at the same length than this one even 2 millimeters longer. Why? So that doesn't make too much sense to me. Well, it is how it is. And the design, well, that's not a Porsche, it's a Jaguar F-Type. Think of V6, but that one already has a good sound. So the roofline right there, pretty central. Here again with this typical CLA ending, coupe style, 4-door of course. Also frameless doors, that's also special with this car. So yes, still a very central choice. 16-inch would be the base wheel size, by the way, if you're interested. And well, this 3/4 rear perspective is something very special with this car. It's also where the designers pay special attention to, and it indeed looks like a raindrop from the rear. It's seamlessly integrated, the whole design, also as the tail lamps are laid out. So I think that's also what making this CLA special, and then you can maybe understand that there's still some differentiation to an A-Class sedan and also to a Mercedes C-Class. The CLA 220, 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, 190 horsepower, optional with all-wheel drive like we have here today. Acceleration figure here is about 7 seconds. Then there's the CLA 250, 2-liter 4-cylinder, 225 horsepower, had that last time, 6.3 seconds. And now to this interior, which has soft touch leatherette at the inside of the doors up and also in the lower part, and this special trim with the white contrast, and this feels so soft. You have base seats, you have sport seats, as we can see it right now with the integrated head restraint, and you have so many different seating choices, and most of them are actually sustainable and animal friendly. That's really cool. You have, for example, a fabric brace seat, so the cloth basic. Then there is a mix of fabric on the inside and this leatherette, Artico or MBTEX are the brand names, depending on the country, on the outside. Then there's also Dynamica microfiber and an AMG line on the inside, and this one here at the outside. And then there's also like this full Artico or full MBTEX available for the whole seat if you want this slick animal skin look, but yet again want to combine luxurious interior with being more animal friendly. And this is also the case here. So this one is not animal sourced, although it 100% looks like it, and it feels so high class, so soft, even with the optional perforation. So you can get this seat here without the perforation as a base, and if you go for the option, it's about even more than 1,000 euros extra. This perforation is an option for the seat cooling. Getting inside is fairly easy, and you have a quite sporty seating position indeed. So yeah, and this also feels more like compact size vehicle, also in the space in the front. So in the mid-size segment, although this one's the same length than the C-Class, I think you have a little bit more space and a little more seating area. However, you have about 5 centimeter more shoulder room than in the predecessor CLA. And I want to show you one cool trick already. Hey Mercedes!
How can I help you?
Open the sunroof.
I'm opening the roller sun blind on the sliding sunroof.
Yeah, magic. But for the real opening, for security reasons, you have to then do it yourself. Now look at that. That really has still a wow factor. Here also the other A-Class cars. You would start with 7-inch screens on both sides. Optional then the bigger one, 10.25 on the right side. And optional 2 times 10.25 inch. And then you have this going through design, so that looks pretty fancy. Also then those round vents here, they are design highlight. This is black piano lacquer, I don't like it that much, but cool. For example, this perforated structure right here on the right part. Then again, matte wood is being used right there, high class, and leatherette on top of the dashboard. So the build quality, again, fantastic. Shifting pedals if you like it, but the dual clutch transmission usually does all the good job. Left side with your thumb here, you can use this small black pad and then control the instruments right there. On the right side, you can also use your right thumb then to control the central infotainment screen, but also via touch. And the third thing would be using the lower trackpad, so redundant controls, however you prefer it. Why not? Climate unit, nice clicking sound, and still very well reachable. This one is also quite well aligned. As for the buttons, sometimes they don't align this button line that well. In the very lower part, you have an inductive charging pad next to a USB-C supply for the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto connection. Then you have those cup holders. They can also flip out and be a little bit more adaptive. And those digital instruments, as I said, you can switch them around a little bit. That's always nice to show you here in styles and display. For example, you can also switch to a sports gauge, so you're pretty flexible as for that. They made big progress as for the head-up display, projected into the windscreen. That's an option at Mercedes, of course, as most of the stuff is an option. And here the allowed speed can be displayed there, the current speed, and also GPS information. So I already gave you an MBUX example for the sunroof, and here, for example, you can also do like, hey Mercedes. Hey Mercedes.
How can I help you?
Please drive me to Berlin.
I am starting route guidance to Ebertstrasse, Berlin.
So using it for the GPS input, for example, quite frequently, so that's working very well, or for weather, or even changing the temperature, that all works. And again, touch screen control, that is possible, browsing through the main menu. So when I connect my phone, there it is. This is also now with the new iOS, which has a little bit different layout than here now of the CarPlay. Soft touch leatherette also at the rear doors, both in the black and the white scheme. So this is high class build quality. The build quality of this car is really amazing, but of course the price is also high. Yeah, it's not the best package overall, but it's a huge improvement if you compare it to the predecessor. So you open the trunk by flipping the logo, that's quite cool, and then here we are. And the liter figures here, by the way, 370 for the A-Class hatch, 420 for the A-Class sedan, 460 here for the CLA. You have more length in trunk here, of course, than with the A-Class sedan, for example. Since this one here also is all-wheel drive, you can also take some comments on that. And both of those, actually the 220 and the 250 CLA, are optionally available with all-wheel drive. The 35 AMG and the 45 AMG are always all-wheel drive, so front plus rear, here on demand. So and you don't have to go for it. Also, it does not change the acceleration figure. So this car driving here right now is about 7 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. and the 250 is about 6.3 seconds. So there's like a little more than half a second acceleration difference. But yet again, I always say, when you have the choice for a car, get the one with the biggest displacement, but with the lowest horsepower output. That's the more, that's the best durability for the engine. That you have the displacement, which is like the basic character for the engine, and more displacement does not mean higher consumption. Sometimes it's the other way around. I told you also last time in the Mazda 3 review that this downsizing trend is just something that is done due to the regulations and not because it makes sense. And yet again, we do favor engines that are more economical, definitely, of course. And when it's not tuned up to the most horsepower, like in the 45, I mean, getting like those 400 horsepower plus from a 2-liter engine, I don't know. What about you? So I think it makes more sense in a more also, if you think long term, to get a reasonable power output out of a reasonable displacement. And I think that's the case here with this very engine, 2-liter of displacement and 190 horsepower. So if you ask me, for this very vehicle, I would probably end up buying exactly this engine. And I think the difference is also not too big to the 250. Yeah, I mean, you have this little bit different horsepower tune, and if you really accelerate 0 to 100, you will notice it. But in most of situations, it doesn't make too much of a difference. So you can also save some money and stick with the 220. Also, if you ask me all-wheel drive, yes or no, I would probably say, it also doesn't make too much of a difference, because when you pick the all-wheel drive, there is no difference in acceleration figure, and the reason for that is, high horsepower performance cars, when they have either front wheel or rear wheel drive, or even just rear wheel drive or all-wheel drive, then it does make a difference, because it's about traction, the grip the tires have. But this power region here with 190 horsepower is not a region where it's about that you need more grip at the other axle. So you can bring all the power to the ground with this 190 horsepower, even just rear the front wheels. And in most situations, you won't feel a difference. And even if you have the all-wheel drive, it's front plus rear, so also some torque then on the rear wheels. However, it doesn't change the basic driving characteristics. It will still be front wheel biased. And this is also a difference, for example, to the Mercedes C-Class, which has the rear wheel driven platform. So, about that acceleration, 50 kilometers to 100, let's go. That's it. And I think that's definitely reasonable and also right-sized for this car. You see, I was in sport mode, and we got also a little bit more here from the engine. I think for a 2-liter 4-cylinder, the sound was quite decent here on the interior. Or what's your take on that? Then, if you want to relax more, we can put it back to comfort mode. We can set the adaptive cruise control right here on the left side, which is a useful option, the Distronic, how they call it. Distance to the car in front of me is being kept. And here at 100 kilometers or about 60 miles an hour, perfect noise insulation. This car is so silent here for this compact segment. And also at higher speeds. In the CLA 250 review, we also had maxed it out on the motorway. So compare that if you like. At a later stage, we also have a different color there and some different landscape surrounding, always enjoyable to watch. And there they also, had a very good noise insulation even at the very high speeds. So also it has a good wind, coefficient. So it's, really stands well in the wind. As for the aerodynamics, that also helps with noise insulation. So you really feel at home on the motorway, although it's a compact vehicle. At some point when you're tall, as me, then you do have a little bit more comfort in either SUV style cars when you sit more upright, or then also in a segment above, so a mid-size segment would be above. However, I told you earlier, size-wise, this is mid-size. However, I sometimes find the seats in the C-Class maybe a little bit more comfortable, but just a little bit. But also in general, not with Mercedes. So tall people will feel a little bit more at home in a Volvo, for example, or in a Volkswagen than in the Mercedes. But if you're not as tall as me, it won't be such a problem. So, definitely also great motorway. Then back to the sports mode. We're going to this roundabout, see how the steering also reacts. And as for the suspension, which is the optional adaptive suspension here today, here I would like if I would steer maybe a little bit less here, but it's still okay. Natural driving feeling, get out. The suspension gives me enough feedback here in the sports mode. Wow, nice accelerating out of the corner. Although I'm missing a punch from the rear, definitely. So that would be better in a Mercedes C-Class, where you accelerate out of the corners with a little rear torque, of course, rear wheel bias, even if you have the all-wheel drive. And that gives you, better drive out of the corners. However, the driving handling here is really nice. So you feel the car is light, compact, very well to handle. You're in perfect control all the time. So that is very well balanced, very well done. And you don't necessarily need an AMG version, because here when you're in the sport mode, you still have a good compromise for the adaptive suspension, that you have sportiness and comfort at the same time. And now to our conclusion for today with the new generation of the Mercedes CLA and driving the CLA 220. Well, exterior, it has been changed a little bit, definitely. It's, let's say, not as sensual and as unique as before, I think. The first generation was, a little bit more screaming out, but maybe now also a little bit more likable. On the other hand, I think it's also a matter of preference. Definitely, it still has this design focus that it differentiates to the A-Class sedan and the Mercedes C-Class. However, in length, yeah, it's longer than the A-Class sedan, but the same length as the Mercedes C-Class, so I'm not really sure if that's making any sense. On the interior, then, of course, more room than before, especially on the rear seats. And you still somehow feel this A-Class compact platform, yes, so for taller people that can be one thing to move to another vehicle. Other than that, if you think about other Mercedes cars, this compact platform car, although it's mid-size in length, yeah, still or already offers everything you might want to imagine, like the cool seats, and even in combination with a lot of different animal-friendly materials, which is superb in this car. The central layout and the interior, also the voice input, so many things are really top-notch and top of the segment. So that's really well done. Also driving-wise, that was fantastic. Sound installation was great. This engine we tested here today is also probably the one we should go for. Yeah, consumption could be a little bit less. That's not top-notch, but still in the normal or reasonable way, somewhat to say. And adaptive suspension is just fantastic here. Such an elaborate driving feeling. Told you at the end of the driving part. This is driving a small Mercedes S-Class already here in the CLA. Yeah, and then it's very, very expensive. Yeah, like 50 or then at some point 60K for a size of that one. But yet again, half the price of an S-Class. So that's probably also the conclusion for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to this review. Hope you also check out our other Mercedes CLA review and also the performance versions of the A-Class. So different reviews you can all check out or compare it to a Mercedes C-Class if you're interested in that. And definitely tune in to our very next review. Please subscribe if you haven't done so far. See you next time.